Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, your Kings insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat, as well as Santa Claus. And joining me,
it's a good look.
Yeah, joining me is Mr. Sean Cunningham from ABC 10.
I'm always jolly and cheery and festive, so to see you join this holiday spirit is a good thing.
I think we need it, don't we? Like I'm not going to do the whole podcast with the beard on, but
why not?
Because it's hot. It's a mask, so I'm wearing it was it like Luke Walton with my nose out? But I actually have the option of pulling it up, so I can wear this everywhere. Yeah, just go down the aisles of the grocery store.
Yeah, and get a couple looks at people. Give a couple looks, and it's fine.
Yeah. So, Sean, we're in emergency. We're not in emergency podcast mode.
No.
We had to push the podcast back because we're in emergency Sacramento Kings mode.
Mm-hmm.
This team has come undone. The COVID has moved in. And we've been waiting all day for what has happened. It's just, after Wednesday, Alvin Gentry, Marvin Bagley, Terrence Davis all went on the health and safety protocol list. But it's not over yet. Now we have De'Aaron Fox. We've got Alex Len. We've got Luke King, which is a whole nother ball of issues. All of them are now on the health and safety list. In addition to that, Chimezie Metu is questionable with a sore knee. Tyrese Halliburton is questionable with a sore back. And of course, Rashawn Holmes is out still he's doubtful with an eye issue. This team has the potential to not play. And I think that's crazy, but we might not have a game tomorrow on Friday night against the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's a problem.
The surging Memphis Grizzlies. And COVID is running wild with the Sacramento Kings team. And they come back from a East Coast road trip. Oh, there goes the Santa Claus mask.
It's coming off.
Now it's jarring. Now it's like, I feel like the kid at the mall who's like, "You're not Santa.
You're not Santa.
You smell like beef and cheese.
Yeah. You sit on a throne of lies."
Right. Man, like it's not just players. I mean, you've got coaches, you've got staffers, you've got
we haven't even got that yet. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm not gonna out anybody, but it's running rampant. And it's if we keep it just to the players, it's something that's going to affect games. Fortunately, they've got a nice slew of Stockton Kings that are around. If you're kind of doing some contact tracing and you see that De'Aaron Fox is doubtful and Alex Len is doubtful, cleaning that up a little bit, there's a small chance that they could produce a negative test. And you just saw it with Malik Monk with the Lakers, where all of a sudden he was removed from health and safety protocols. Maybe it was a false positive test, or he at least was able to produce 2 negative tests within the 24-hour period. They're testing these guys multiple times a day and different levels of testing. And they're really trying to crack down on it. And so I think you're going to see a lot more masking protocols within the teams. I think you're going to see a lot more, and it's always funny, like who's the guy or the person that goes around and says, "Hey, get your mask up over your nose." Like you mentioned Luke Walton a minute ago. You saw Doug Christie coaching without a mask last night. I've got video. Crazy part is I've got video of Alex Len and De'Aaron Fox in succession hugging Doug Christie right before the game. So, not to say that Doug is in those protocols yet either. I don't have reporting on that, but should that happen, Mike Lombardi would be the next one that would take the coaching reins in the interim. So it's some dicey times. And I think, it's quite possible that we might hear another one tonight. We might hear another one tomorrow morning. These things are look at what's happening in the NFL, James. Over 100 players in the NFL right now. Most notably Cleveland, the LA Chargers right now are just really going through it. So the NBA is no different. It is running rampant. It's that time of year. Fortunately, you have more players than not that are vaccinated, and their symptoms are very mild, if at all. And like we saw with Alvin Gentry the other night, being able to FaceTime the team in good spirits, just kind of a scratchy throat. Hopefully that continues and he's back on the sideline soon. But these are just real world scenarios. The games seem very secondary at this point, and all the best to all those that are affected.
Yeah, I think that's what's missed. I think a lot of people are like, oh man, they might have to cancel the game. Well, like it hasn't happened yet where a NBA player has gotten really, really sick and passed away. We haven't seen that yet, but that doesn't mean that it won't happen. I mean, there's possibilities here. And I'll say this too. Like, I don't care what your political views are. Like, if you're out there in the world and you have, you're welcome to have your political views. I don't care. Just don't get in my timeline with some nonsense. I'm just going to start blocking it's just a warning. I'm going to block every single one of you that starts talking stupid stuff about vaccinations and blaming players, blaming, Marvin Bagley for Alvin Gentry. How do we know it wasn't Alvin Gentry that gave it to Marvin Bagley? How do we know it wasn't someone that some arena worker or someone that Alvin bumped into at like a coffee shop and Marvin Bagley was on the other side of town and ran into somebody else? We don't know these things. Right. So let's just not point fingers because that's just foolish. That's foolish. And I just don't want to these people in my timeline, you just sound crazy. Like,
yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it. I mean, there's people that are going to say, oh, like I just mentioned, hey, Doug hugged two dudes and Doug's not wearing a mask the entire game. And look, I get it.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of head coaches wearing masks, especially if they're vaccinated. And, the whole coaching staff is vaccinated.
They have been. Yep. The whole time.
Boosted as well. So it's, you do these things so that if and when you catch the virus, that what science says is that you don't have crazy symptoms. You're not on a ventilator. You don't have to go to the hospital. Hopefully it passes, through you very quickly and you're done with it. So, I have a little bit more of a tolerance for people who are in my mentions, but because look, James, I always say people are entitled to their opinions. If they want to be that guy and they want to sit there and kind of, oh, here's where you got it. Here's where you were irresponsible, whatever it is, like the fact of the matter is you just protect yourself. And, I think I mentioned a minute ago, I'm not going to out anybody. I don't do that until it really affects games, especially when it comes to players. And for simple fact that there is a moment to where somebody can test negative tomorrow and possibly play. I think you kind of want to see the process through. I get there's a fantasy and a daily fantasy and gambling aspect and all that stuff. Look, I get it. I don't really care. This is different than a sprained ankle. You can be questionable with a sprained ankle, but you're not waiting on a test to come back to say, hey, all of a sudden you can play because your sprained ankle is not infectious. Like I treat viruses different than I do injuries. And I know that might be a difference of opinion for a lot of journalists out there. So yeah, man. And especially with staffers, like they're not the ones playing the game. So they're not necessarily coaching games. So I remove a lot of them from that discussion because the average person doesn't need to know that information. So that's just my own little ethics there. I think some people would side with it, but I'll keep a little of those things behind the curtain for now.
Yeah, I side with you on all that. Like I totally dig that. And even the guys who are accusing guys, I think that's foolish. It's right. The other people, like, look, we're reporting about an actual thing that's happening. So we're reporting about people testing positive or falling into health and safety protocols. We're not making some political stand about whether you should be vaccinated or not. But what I don't want is the crazy wild stuff. Like I just don't have any time for it. I don't have any time. I don't have any patience. I've gotten fights with family members and other people, close friends.
Tis the season for that, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. And it is. Isn't it strange how like all of a sudden we get 2 weeks after Thanksgiving and we have a bunch of people with COVID.
Yeah.
Didn't see that one coming now, did we? Yeah, it's tough. And we're going to have the same thing after Christmas. And so like, I don't know what the league is going to do. the league is in a bunch of trouble right now. Just not like they've done something wrong. But I'll say this, Sean, the fact that players have not been testing, only players who are unvaccinated have been testing, that's an issue.
That's a big issue. And I think they're going to
You could have helped
that.
yourself.
They're going to clean that up. And look, you go through, look, the best part about this is, as you mentioned, James, we haven't had anybody really super affected because so many people are vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, that's terrific. I also love the fact that, in doing all of this, like, all you can really do is, you protect yourself, you go through the protocols, you do what you do. This isn't going anywhere. And I do think, we're not going to see a stop. Maybe this will be my Nostradamus moment of the day, but I really don't think you're going to see leagues shut down and have this, because you've protected yourself. Like, you've done what you can. There might be some more stringent policies when it comes to the unvaccinated players, the people who are part of the union and are able to choose whether or not they want to do that. You've certainly seen that in the NFL. Maybe that will get more of a spotlight on it. I think that's probably a necessary thing. But at the same time, I don't think we're going to see shutdowns. You look at economies. I don't think you're going to see restaurant shutdowns in states. I think you've got the way to protect yourself. And I've had people ask me, "Oh, Sean, have you had coronavirus?" My answer all the time is, I don't know, because I've protected myself. I don't mind saying it. And even before that, I've never had any symptoms. For the past 2 years, I've never dealt with any cold or flu symptoms or anything like that. So, knock on wood, I'm not trying to say that, I'm lucky. I probably am lucky, but there's so many of the asymptomatic, you can go around players, and James, you mentioned that they hadn't been testing vaccinated players. Well, mm-hmm. It is foolish. You need to do that, because if you have a guy who's asymptomatic and it does spread, this is kind of the result of that. So we know that vaccinated people can get COVID still. That's very exciting. We know that. So I know that's a long way of just saying, protect yourself, folks, and be careful. And this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And this is our new normal.
Yeah, I think it is our new normal, which is, it's such a bummer that we have to live in a world like this right now, and that we're so politically divided that it becomes such an issue of, and the finger pointing and all that stuff. And I will openly tell everyone that I not only got my 2 shots, I got my booster, and I'm happy I did. Did I feel great afterwards? No, but that's okay. It's about, I've got a 74-year-old dad with COPD. If I give him COVID, then I'll kill my dad. And so I got to do what I got to do to protect my family. I don't want my kids getting it. I don't want my wife getting it. It's just not a pleasant situation, because, again, we just don't know. And so, again, like, I feel for the players, because it's not like these guys want to be in this situation. This team, the Kings, just won a game. We'll get to that in a few. They just won a game.
They won a game.
And then they're looking at Friday night. Like, the Grizzlies are a team that you got your sights set on, that you owe a couple to. And then after that, you got the San Antonio Spurs on Sunday. There's potential here, and then you go to San Francisco, and you've got the Golden State Warriors on Monday. So it's a boom, boom, boom. Like, you could lose 3 games in a row right here, and it's not your fault. You lost 3 games because, you don't even have Luke King, like, to fill in. And I was going to say that earlier, like, Luke King. Okay. So people forget Luke King was with the Kings in Toronto on Monday.
Yeah.
The Kings flew home. He did not. He flew to Oklahoma City, where he played on Tuesday or Wednesday. What is today? Thursday. He played on Wednesday, and he started alongside Jamias Ramsey, Robert Woodard, and Nemias Queta. So reinforcements are on their way, but those reinforcements could get locked up in a hotel and stay there for a while. That's just the reality of what we're facing. So we're going to have to wait and see if those guys are available, because they might not be. And the Kings may even say, look, we're not going to put them around the other group of players, because then we could infect them as well. And we're not going to bring Rashawn Holmes back into the building, because he's already got an eye issue. But why bring him back in the building and have him do walkthroughs and have him do all this stuff and then potentially get sick.
Well, and to just clean that up, they're going to do that. Anybody in that building is going to be tested. So it doesn't matter, like coming in from the Stockton Kings, Rashawn Holmes coming back in the building. None of them are going to be around the team until they're tested and they find out whether or not they're negative. So
I know Keita took a PCR test this morning, which means the rest of them did. So I actually, Sean, I went on TV in Portugal.
Portugal, the man, James Ham. I'm calling you Portugal, the man, from the rest of the season.
There it is. I just random. They reached out and said, "Hey, we need you here," and I think it's good because the good people of Portugal, they kind of, this is their first go around with an NBA player, so they don't really understand the dynamic. Like, why isn't he playing? He's putting up 15 points and 8 rebounds and 2.2 blocks. In the G League, he needs to be the starter for the Kings. And so I think it was fun because I was able to, like, they're sitting there, you're a TV guy. So you got somebody in like basically a waiting room, like a virtual waiting room. I'm waiting on Skype and I can hear them talking. I have no idea what they're saying. They're talking so fast and a totally different language, and all I can hear is my name pop up like once or twice. I'm like, oh boy, like I warned you people, I don't know how to speak your language, so I'm hoping. And then they come to me, and of course their anchors speak English, and I'm like, oh, that was close. I don't want to just be there on TV in Portugal, like, I don't know what you're asking me.
Hi, I speak English.
Hi. All I speak is English. What do I do?
Did Tisha Panachero come up in conversation?
No,
Darn.
they were really like, why is this happening? Why is he not come up? Why is he not playing? And I'm like, I just, I'll say it here. Like, look, the NBA has a very, especially for second round picks and for big men, especially as well. Like, you come into the league and you sit on the bench and you work your way and you learn the game of basketball, especially Keita. His body wasn't ready. You could tell, like in summer league, right away, you could tell, like, okay, he's got potential, but he needs a ton of work on his core. You can see him dragging around his body a little bit, and you can get away with that at the college level. You cannot get away with that at the professional level because the athletes are all bigger, stronger, and faster. And like, the only way I would say that to someone from Portugal is like, look, you got one guy who's made it. And if you go around all of the cities in America, most cities in America might have one guy who's made it to the NBA. So you're going up against the best of the best of the best. I mean, how many college basketball players are there every year? There's thousands.
And then explaining to the Portuguese people that coming from, what was it, Utah State?
Yeah.
Coming from Utah State to the NBA and then trying to map an equivalent for something in Portugal, which I don't even know what that would be, but is akin to like coming from like I don't know, a youth basketball league that isn't, I mean, it's just the level is just so different,
Yeah, you'd have to equate it to soccer. It would be like a Division 4 soccer, or Division 5 or even lower, or like a weird Adriatic league or something. It's something that you're not used to. Like they know soccer really, really well. So it's not apples to apples. It's not like a relegated team. That's not what college basketball is. It's like the teams that get relegated to like the lower level. That's not even what the G League is. The G League is below that. It's like just an off league that, that is nowhere near as good. And so, yeah, I think he's gonna be fine, actually. I think he's gonna be a really good NBA player. I don't know if he's gonna be great. I don't know if he's gonna play 30 minutes a night. But he can rebound. He can block shots. He's got a soft touch around the rim. He's got a nice, like 18, 20-foot jumper, and he's extended that out to the 3-point range. And then what the Kings really like about him is they see a passing potential that none of their other bigs have. And so They want him to be in better shape. And that's not because he was in bad shape because he did something wrong. It's just being in NBA shape is different than being in any other shape. You know, you have to be in the top tier and you have to get stronger and you have to like tighten up things that matter at the NBA level. So,
and
I think
especially
it's
with
got potential.
the way that they want to run. And if there was ever a year to really give him that time, it's this year because they have such a wealth of big men. But you're right, James. Like they are very, very high on him, and he's fortunately putting up some really solid numbers there. And away from that, just an incredibly intelligent human being that is
He's
a
fun.
mountain of a man. I mean, this guy is just absolutely intelligent, off the charts, and you can really see some good things. The unfortunate part, I felt like the jinx because I went out to see him play in the home opener. I haven't been back I have been back. I've been back one other time, but I went back to for that home opener, and they got trounced by Agua Caliente. Harry Giles was back in the building. Jordan Ford from Folsom was on the sideline. And actually, Serge Ibaka played in that game because he just wanted to get some run in the G League. So it was a weird third quarter where they got really outscored by like 30 something points, which is really impressive. But it really kind of speaks to the G League and just the craziness that can happen in that league. And for him to get this confidence, I think is going to go a long way. And I can't wait. Maybe not as much as you can wait. I mean, you are on pins and needles for this guy to play. I can't wait to see him play in an NBA game, even just to be on the active roster is a big step in the right direction. And maybe we'll see that on Friday.
Yeah,
maybe
the chance of us seeing it is high. If there's going to be a game, there's a good chance he's at least. I mean, he'll be on the active roster without any question, as long as he doesn't get put in health and safety protocols. But I mean, realistically, this is the process.
Yeah,
it's the process, and it's not that I'm so excited to see it. It's that I know that the people in Portugal are so excited to see it, and they're waiting, and they're sitting in there 8 hours ahead, and the game starts at 7:00 at night, and so that puts you, I don't even know, what does that put you at 3:00 in the morning, 2:00 in the morning?
Serious commitment.
Yeah, that's some serious commitment. But if he goes to check in, man, I want you running around the neighborhood and beating on everyone's door and saying it's happening.
Like, bang pots and pans and
this is like
the moment.
No, it's a huge moment. It's the first time a player from Portugal makes it to the pros, and I think that's a huge deal. And the other thing I pointed out too when I was on the air there is Damian Jones is under contract for one more year. For just this season. Tristan Thompson is under contract for just this season. Rashawn Holmes is under contract for another 3 years after this year. Alex Len, you've got one more year on Alex Len's contract. But my point is that there's opportunity. The opportunity could be next season for him, where he's actually getting really solid burns. So there will come a point in this season, especially if the Kings are totally out of it, where Neemias Queta will play a bunch of minutes. And you got to see what you got. You got to give him some run and give him some experience, a lot like we saw from Scally Bissiere in the past, or Harry Giles in the past. Like, there's going to be an opportunity. But I think my point is they've never seen this before. So they're confused by it. And this is the way that it goes. He's 22. Big men in the NBA usually take until they're 24, 25 to really fill out and get to where they're going to be as players. And this is a guy that did not play at the top end college program, like the highest level of college program. And he's a guy who's, he's still young. He's still got plenty of room to grow. And the biggest thing is he has a skill set that the Kings love. And so they're going to try to bring him along. So keep an eye on him, because I think that there's really good potential for him. Yeah. I did not expect to have a gigantic Neemias Queta conversation here, Sean.
Especially with everything going on. I was like, oh, we just really dove into Neemias Queta here. This is going to be great. So,
yeah, I think it's
a nice refresher from some of the stuff bogging down the team at the moment. But coming off a win last night, and then all of a sudden COVID hits, and it was, it's kind of funny because in the face of COVID, and you see, Alvin Gentry away, and you see Doug Christie, and he gets his moment. it felt like not a breath of fresh air, but it felt like a palate cleanser in a way. Like you can enjoy the moment that Doug had, the players clearly did, awarding him the game ball. And you could see what it meant, not only to Doug, but fans were pulling for him. We all in the media know Doug very well. It's fun for me from covering him, not only as a player and then getting him to know him for the many years I have. And we have a long, long history, and couldn't be more thrilled for the guy. And it felt like one of those in this dreck of a season so far, with not only just the ups and downs of the season, but you have COVID on top of that. Just kind of felt like, oh, good for you, man. Like, good for you. You come in and you win this game. You show some things. You do some kind of crazy lineups. I'm sure we'll dive into that. But like it was a really cool moment. Now, who knows? I mean, they can go off and lose the next 4 or 5 games and out with Alvin away. Who knows? But it was cool to kind of celebrate that moment for him.
Yeah. This is like, I'll be honest with people out there, like the rarity, like this is not something that normally happened. I went and shut my recorder off after Doug was done doing his post game, and then he was about to walk out. There's a back door that leads back to the locker room, and I whistled at him and came over and gave him a hug. Like we've been friends for a long time. We spent a ton of time. I mean, he was my podcast partner for 3 years.
You fired him. I'm never going to let you forget that. You fired Doug Christie. I'd have told you to pound sand if I was Doug Christie walking off that day. I'm kidding.
Doug is my guy. We talk, we've golfed together. We're friends. And so like, I've been really honest, brutally honest, both on ESPN 1320 with D'Lo and Casey and here on the Kings Beat podcast about just like, it's more of like a protection thing for me. It's that I don't want to see Doug put in a position to just flat out fail. Like, and this team has shown us time and time again who they are. And I don't think that there's anybody that could just walk in and fix it and just flip a switch and everything's good. And now this is a playoff team, a 45 win, 50 win team. But if there's anyone that could possibly do it, maybe Doug has the personality to do it. I just want Doug to have that personality that he still has and get this opportunity, but down the road when he's ready for it, when, you're going into a game on Friday night and maybe you can win on sheer grit. Maybe you can just throw everything at the kitchen, the kitchen sink, throw everything at the Grizzlies and stun them. But there's also going to be moments in that game where you don't have the experience to figure out a specific issue. And that's where I just think that, seasoning, like a coach needs to be seasoned, just like players need to be seasoned. And for me, again, it's more of a protective thing. Like I don't want Doug to fail and get run out of Sacramento. Now, it might not happen. That might not happen. That might not be the way the story goes for him, but it's also very possible. Like I see what's happened to Vlade and Peja. And again, I'm a bit protective.
I think those guys can still walk down the street and still be celebrated for what they did. I mean,
there were people, we're going to get to this because it'll be part of the business of basketball where here's Barnes just like out of nowhere. Hey, like almost like the,
hey, I can't wait to talk about that. I can't wait to talk about that.
No, that's the business of basketball right there. But there are people that played off of what Harrison asked, which was, should DeMarcus Cousins, statistically speaking, should DeMarcus Cousins have his jersey retired in Sacramento? Which like started a discussion, but it's just started a discussion on Twitter. And then people are saying like pull Vlade's, his banner down from the rafters. And I'm like, so that's where I'm talking. There are enough people out there who feel that are so dramatically like impacted for some reason by what happened with Vlade Divac here as a general manager that they don't even want his number in the rafters anymore. And so again, that's what I don't want for Doug. That's kind of where I was going with that, Sean.
Yeah. And I just think those people would be idiotic. I really do. Those people, seriously. Yeah. I mean, like again, I don't want to. Okay. I'm going to go a long way to make a point here. And this is in no way, shape, or form. Like, I'm just going to illustrate a point here. Think of OJ Simpson. Okay. Like, and I'm not saying we celebrate OJ Simpson, but the guy's still in the Hall of Fame. Like, whatever happened with OJ Simpson, whether you believe he did it or not.
He turned two human beings into Pez dispensers, but go ahead, Sean.
As I shoot people a look on the YouTube channel, whether you believe or not, the guy was still an incredible football player. I'm not saying you applaud him. I'm not saying that. But again, now that's a very dramatic way to make a point. Doug Christie as a player, Doug Christie as a coach. Vlade Divac as a player, Vlade Divac as a general manager. The failures or successes of a coach and general manager do not taint your legacy as a player.
I agree.
It just does not happen. Okay. It doesn't happen. And again, you can criticize, and it's fair to criticize both, especially Vlade Divac, because obviously he's the one that's the general manager, Peja as an assistant general manager, whatever. You can kill Vlade Divac for being this failure of a general manager if you choose to do so. That's fine. It takes nothing away from what he has accomplished on the court and his being a thread of the fabric of the organization. And I'll even take it a step further. Last season, when he sat courtside with Vivek Ranadive and Monty McNair, for him not to be announced to the crowd because it was the too soon moment, an absolute failure. That was a debacle. Embarrassing. The guy's sitting there. You welcome him back. He's part of your Kings family. You don't not bring attention to him. The guy's sitting freaking courtside, for crying out loud.
Sean is not calling out the production team, just so you know.
Well,
that decision was not on the production team.
Correct. Sorry. And in fairness to that was not their call. But again, whoever made that decision, shame on you. Like, what are you doing? If you're going to sit with him courtside, at least acknowledge him. And I get it. Maybe you thought he was going to get booed. Yeah, maybe there'd be booed. Would Vlade be bothered by some boos? Probably not. He's got a thick skin. He realizes it. But he would.
He had a better deal 2 days ago.
You got me with that one, James.
There you go, Sean. No, he would have been
I was not expecting that.
He would have been fine. He is, and what I always tell people, like, whatever you think of him for the Luka Doncic thing, he's still one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's someone that you just you want to be around. Like,
even if you go ahead, boo the hell out of him. If you were really bothered by that, fine, go for it. But then have a hard time cheering De'Aaron Fox because that guy probably would have been traded.
Yeah.
Like that. And again, maybe you're fine with that too. But again, like,
he did draft De'Aaron Fox.
It's not like he purposely said, I'm going to come into Sacramento. I'm going to blow this thing up. I'm going to completely just decimate them. That's not the case. And I think people are smarter than that.
Yeah. I mean, his motives were pure. That doesn't mean that he was ready for the job or was capable of doing the job. And again, Here we are in talking about a really, really wild, 2 days of Kings coverage. And we've been sidetracked, Sean.
We have, once again.
We're not to be trusted. We're not to be trusted today. Like, I don't know if
it's the Santa hat. No, yeah, it's the Santa hat. That's what it is.
It's possible. And I'm all red. It's because the Santa hat is so hot. It's so hot. But let's see. Can we pull it up? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Good.
You're fine there.
Oh man, that feels so much
There goes
better.
That Christmas spirit.
Whew. All right. So Kings win. Let's actually discuss what we saw that we liked and didn't like from what Doug Christie did. Because he did coach a game. He did pick up his first NBA win, and he did some things differently. De'Aaron Fox was not. He was the first guard to hit the bench, which I thought was strange, because it's usually Halliburton goes out at the 6-minute mark with Rashawn Holmes when he's healthy, and then Fox goes all the way until the 9 or 10-minute mark of the first quarter. They bring Halliburton back in. Instead, he pulled Fox, who was having a really good quarter, and stuck with Halliburton. I thought that was new. I did tweet out at one point in quotes that Alvin Gentry said, "We've tried every combination." And then in quotes, Doug Christie, "Hold my beer," says, "Hold my beer." I've never seen a Halliburton, Fox, Chimezie Metu, Alex Len, Mo Harkless lineup. but hell, throw it all out there. Just do what you can.
You also saw moments where, and I think we've all agreed, like you have to have Fox and or Halliburton on the floor at all times. Like you need one of them on the floor. Alvin said the same thing.
Yep.
But it was pretty clear in asking Doug last night, like, was this a concept, a philosophy premeditated before this game? Maybe you wanted to attack this team with the length. I mean, because you went with long lineups. I mean, you went with long lineups that also had a little bit more focus defensively. I mean, that's just is what it was. So, and he said, no, I mean, some of it was definitely done with the staff in the moment. I mean, he was crediting the assistant coaching staff a lot. So, I think they took a chance. I think it worked. I think especially in that fourth quarter when De'Aaron went out, because he ended the quarter. A lot of times you'll see guys subbed 2 minutes, maybe a minute 30 before the end of the third quarter going into the fourth, and they utilize that timeout break, the end of quarter break, as extra time to get a guy right, and then they come back right around the 8-7 minute mark. And they didn't do that. They started the fourth with De'Aaron, and then he came out, and then when he left, I mean, they went on this crazy run where all of a sudden things just were really, really working. And conversely, Washington, they benched Bradley Beal for a long, long time. I thought that was insane. So, yeah, man, there was some positives and negatives in there for sure. But kudos for him for trying. It worked. I mean, he stuck with what worked. I think he's had probably one of the best outings from Tristan Thompson and Chimezie Metu that we've seen with them in Kings uniforms. So, I liked it. I did want to say this though, and not to show my access or anything, but I was texting a player before last night's game, and they were making a big deal about what was said in Toronto and the team's kind of approach to that, and how much I'm talking about yesterday's testing and uncertainty and people who were testing positive and things of that nature, how much that had kind of disrupted some of the things that they were hoping to display last night. That was before the game. I think everything that player was talking about going into the game was very much on display last night. The communication on the court was absolutely stellar. I mean, You saw a ton of communication, both verbally, physically, from the bench. I mean, they were vocal. They were noisy. You could hear it. I mean, kind of slamming the crowd here a little bit. That was a very lightly attended ball game last night. And you could hear a lot of that chatter up where we sit, James. And that stood out to me a lot. And that was really a focus of my post-game questioning, was how much of that, because look, I don't know that Doug really had an effect in that way. Certainly he had effect in ways that he deserves credit for. I don't think he deserved necessarily the credit for that, because I think the players really took it upon themselves, and that was rather impressive. I know it's only one game, but it's one game that starts off of a stretch of 10 of the next 12 at Golden One Center, and they don't leave the state of California until January 6th. So I think that is something you circle with a big highlighter, and you hope to carry that over into the next game.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to see what the next game even looks like. That's the problem that we're facing now, that we don't know what the next game is going to look like. And look, I thought that there were some mistakes made as far as, what was going on the court. I asked Doug in post game if he was nervous and if he had a million things running through his head. And he said, no, I wasn't nervous, but I did have a million things running through my head. And that's what I saw on the court. It was like every single time a timeout happened, a different lineup showed up. It was like, wow. So I he tried all kinds of things, but I think James, a lot of it was like in panic mode or just chaos mode.
And typically his substitutions were like 3 at a time, which I also thought was a little bit interesting.
Yeah, maybe I got to go changes.
Back. Maybe I need to go back and watch it a little bit more thoroughly, but I kept looking over and seeing here's 3 dudes at one time and 3 come off. It wasn't like here's one. Here's maybe, I think there were probably some moments where there were 2, but to me, it felt like you just said, line changes in hockey.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a chaos to it, and that's not a knock on Doug. He'd never done this before. He had no time to prep. There wasn't 2 days off beforehand for him to get ready to take over as the head coach. That's just not what he got. You know, it was like he got a call that morning, like, hey, this thing's gone sideways. And it, you know, you got to deal with the situation that's in front of you. And I thought he did a good job. I think the biggest thing is the players followed him. The players like stuck to the plan. Every single player that stepped on the court fought. I thought the only guy who had a bad game was Damian Jones. And that's not to just single out one guy, but he looked like the moment, whatever it was, he just had a bad start. And Doug used different guys afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ty even said something after the game. He said, you know, we only had 10 players and 3 of them are centers. Like, what are we supposed to, like, this modern NBA?
Yeah.
And we only got 10 players and 3 of them are centers. What are we supposed to do? Well, we just stuck together and fought and did a bunch of good stuff.
And they start off with a 3-guard lineup, but they went away from it so often to go bigger a lot. Like, yeah, they start this 3-guard lineup. Davion Mitchell was sensational in his first NBA start, but then they go away from it and for long stretches, and somehow it worked. I didn't think it was going to work because I was telling you, James, I was expecting 50 points from Bradley Beal at one point.
Yep.
And I think the only reason that didn't happen was because his coach benched him for some reason. I don't understand why that was. And they stopped kind of going away from him, but the guy was poised to have like a monster game. And then of course they go really cold in that fourth quarter.
Yeah. And then we had all the situations where Buddy Hield was guarding Bradley Beal one-on-one. It was like,
right. Why?
Oh,
like why? I literally, I think in a weird way, I asked you, I said, if you're Bradley Beal and you're looking at Buddy Hield across from you, like you're just,
let's eat.
I'm taking it. Yeah. Let's go.
Let's eat. Yeah, I thought that was like, there were some moments in that game that just didn't work out, but then down the stretch, like Harrison Barnes just goes like backpack mode, just says, I got this, and took over the game. And it was this moment like, where have you been?
I was nervous to say, is he back? Because
yeah,
like he hit that 3. Look at that.
The wide open top of the key 3, no one around him. He hits it and was like,
praise God,
I am back. He quoted scripture in postgame, which I thought was interesting. That's unusual. I don't think that I remember him doing that before. But yeah, it was like this moment where all of a sudden Harrison Barnes looked like Harrison Barnes and was dominant. But he scored 15 of his 19 in the fourth. Lots of missed free throws, including Barnes, I think missed 1 or 2. Lots of missed and 1 free throws, which is always weird. That's usually something that's not good. When Sean and I both have our phones bling at the same time.
Well, and in fairness, I have to keep mine on because of work here, because of I'm in the building. You don't see the music stuff behind me. And by the way, we're gonna touch this office up. We just moved back into this office recently, and I've got to touch some of that behind us up a little bit.
You got to fix that, Sean.
I've got a whole lot of boxes over there.
I think you have O.J. Simpson's Heisman trophy sitting up there.
That might be.
We didn't know that Sean was the biggest O.J. Simpson fan.
I would like to auction that now. But yeah, man, it felt like a good for them moment, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know that
it was.
I'm not here to say that the Kings are back, because I'm always the one that is ready for the other shoe to drop. And even in that 3-game win streak, I'm just like, no, they're still not good. Like, you know, they're 500 basketball team.
See, I was going to say, this is that moment where Sean says they're a 500 basketball team, even though I've never seen a 500 basketball team in my 12 years of covering them.
Again, like, and I say that at best, like, if you are, that's at best. Like, and again, that's just another way to tell people, just simmer down. This is it. Like the chatter about, like, even in, and I'm not trying to slam, and in fairness, I forget who asked it, so I'm not trying to slam that journalist, because they have a job to do. But it felt weird to ask Doug Christie about looking ahead to next year and wanting to coach. Like, obviously, if you have any idea who Doug Christie is, the minute he took over as an assistant coach, he wants to be an NBA head coach.
Yeah.
Would he like that to happen in Sacramento? 100%. Is he trying to stab Alvin Gentry in the back or Luke Walton in the back? No, that's not what he's trying to do. The question of him wanting to be a head coach, of course he wants to be a head coach. Getting him to bite on that bait is like, just felt really, really tough to do in that first moment while he takes over for Alvin Gentry. Maybe it comes up at a practice, I don't know, but I get people have jobs to do. It made me cringe a little bit, but kudos to Doug. He handled it the right way. He handled it very well. And
kudos to media relations who saw some of that might come and made sure they prepped him, because they did do that. I mean, they waited and they said, yeah, Doug is being prepped. Like, they weren't like putting powder on his head so he didn't have a sheen or something. Like, they were literally, hey, there's gonna be a guy who asks you this. And I mean, it's the same guy who always asks those questions. So, like,
oh, okay, now I know who it was.
If
I
you
actually
forgot
did
who
totally
it
forgot
was,
who it was.
yeah, no,
and Jason, you know, you're talking about Jason Anderson,
yeah,
and you know what? He's got
yeah.
a job to do. I don't fault. Again, I'm not trying to fault Jason. I cringed at the maybe the way it was asked. I just didn't think that was the right setting, because we already know this stuff. But again, like, everyone has jobs to do, so I'm not trying to slam Jason. And in fairness, I did forget it was Jason, but thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome, Sean.
Jason will ask hard questions, and kudos to him. He does a great job.
Yeah. He asks questions. I mean, again, sometimes it's delivery, but most of the time the questions have to be asked. I mean,
right.
That's our job, is to sit there and ask difficult questions, or to see situations where you can ask a question that you're going to get the right answer from, or you're going to get a really good answer from. And those are usually what we're waiting for. So
the biggest thing I was waiting to see, would Doug Christie do the same antics he does as an assistant coach as a head coach, meaning first one off the bench onto the floor, I'm going to dap up my guys, and then go into the coach huddle. If you even saw James, sometimes if he didn't dap up the guys coming off the court, he had to go back to the bench to do it and then join the coach's huddle. Odd look, but it's still Doug being Doug. Like, I think Doug ended up in a perfect situation. I've said this before, because he was on a staff with Luke Walton and Alvin Gentry, and two guys who are just going to want Doug to be Doug. Be yourself. You know, some would look like if you went to it, and I'm not trying to pick on Rick Carlisle by any means, but if he had went to a Rick Carlisle staff, you best believe Rick Carlisle would not have him do that. Like, you're not going to show up your coach. You're not going to become like this distraction. You're just, again, you're going to fall in line with the other head coaches. There's kind of a decorum there. I'm just using Rick Carlisle as an example, but Luke Walton and Alvin Gentry, two dudes who are most laid back as they come and wouldn't want you to be any different than what you are.
Yeah, I think it is interesting, because we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but George Karl's staff was George Karl guys. Like, they're George Karl disciples, and that's who they were. I mean, and then Dave Yeager, his staff was totally different. His staff they're Dave Yeager guys, but they're all guys that Dave had coached against in the minor leagues. So they all had like this really, really interesting bond, and they were almost like, an uncle and a brother and another brother. Like, that's what their vibe felt like, which was good for us, because the assistants felt comfortable. They felt comfortable to talk to us and have conversations that maybe they wouldn't normally have, but because they felt so comfortable with Dave, they would have those conversations with. They knew they weren't stepping on toes. Luke's staff, it morphed again and again until he wasn't there anymore. But it started out as like he got raked over the coals in LA for his buddy staff. That didn't work out going forward. And then he got a staff in Sacramento that was like so awkward. No one knew anyone. And it was so bad that first year. And I think a lot of the reason why they weren't very good that first year was they had a lack of connection between the coaching staff. We couldn't even like approach a coach. It was very difficult to even have a conversation, because they didn't know who they were within the like group. And so they didn't want to say something that was out of line without clearing it with somebody. So again, like, every coaching staff is different. So I think having Doug on a coaching staff, like whether he's a head coach or he's an assistant, is really good, because the biggest thing with Doug is he means well, and he wants to impart basketball knowledge and life knowledge, and he wants to have like honest conversations. And it's more about the why than it is about how. He wants to, like, if you're gonna, like, if it's just a basketball question and someone makes a back cut, or makes a cut, you need to cut with purpose. Why are you making that cut? And then he wants you to tell him, why are you doing what you're doing? And people don't always have the answer for it. Well, because we ran that play like 8 times in practice, and my job was to run over to the corner. So you're telling me you don't know why you're running to the corner.
Well, and he pointed that out last night. Like, they have a stretch where things were going really well, especially on the offensive end. And he's like, you know where this began, right? And he says they all looked at him. He says, defense. he's illustrating that they played good defense and it led to great offense.
Yeah, it's good. I think having him there overall, and I also think having him get a taste of this is really good. Just like having Davion Mitchell get a start is really good. It gives you a taste. It shows you, like, this is what it looks like as to be a starter. Just like getting Neemias Queta into Sacramento for 1 or 2 games would be a really good thing, because it's like, okay, now I get it. They're bigger, stronger, faster, and holy cow, I can't believe, if you're going to put Neemias Queta in a game, I think one of the best things to do, put him against Steven Adams and say, okay, you think you're ready? Let me have you do something against Steven Adams. And then you walk out there and you're like, what in the world just happened? That dude just, like, there's no moving him. He's so incredibly strong. So, like, I think all of these things, they play into a bigger picture that this is the COVID stuff is not good. It's never good to have that, but it might open the door and the opportunities for specific people to have success and maybe step up in a different way that they would have been able to if this wasn't the situation. And so, again, like, you got to make some sort of lemonade out of these lemons. And I think that might be it.
Yeah. And it's timing's everything. And I was kind of thinking about this. There's never an ideal timing for this, but because I mentioned the 10 of 12, like, this is a really important stretch for the Kings and in their season. And I can't think of a worse time, to be honest, that this happens.
I'm with you.
Like,
it's the worst time.
It is.
It is. And this is that moment where they could have done something. And now if they do something, it shows that they got a lot of heart and that somebody is pushing the right buttons. But at the same time, this is up against it, man.
Yeah, it really is. And it'll be interesting to see how long this goes, because for people who don't know protocols, it's like a minimum of 10 days until you can produce a negative test consecutively, 2 negative tests within 24 hours apart, at least. And so you could have something that's rather quick. You could have something that's prolonged. And then what's the conditioning like when somebody comes back from that? We've seen that. We've seen somebody who has to, take an additional few days just to get their conditioning right because they're back in the gym again. And, you'll hear basketball players a lot. And I don't think that the average person quite grasps this, because you look at these athletes, and NBA players are considered to be among the greatest athletes on the planet. And yet a day or two removed, a week removed from conditioning, and that type of conditioning does take a vast impact on the overall physique of these players and the conditioning and what their breath is, what their breathing is like, and all those things. So it hopefully they all respond well. Hopefully the ones that go through it get out of there quickly. And this is hopefully something that they can just get through and endure and rise above, because it's going to be it has potential to really kind of cripple your team for really the next month or so.
Yeah, derail the season completely.
Yeah.
I mean, if your season was on the rails, I'm not sure that it was ever on the rails, but it's definitely derailed. It could get derailed completely at this point. Yeah. I think it's one of those things where, like, half of the carts are derailed, but your engine and your caboose were still on. So you're hoping that if something happens just right, you might be able to pull all those other carts back onto the rails.
Okay.
Yeah, this has a potential to, like, be a disaster in the making. All right, Sean. Yeah. The business of basketball.
I like it. I like this discussion. Yes, we do.
We got to hit this. Okay, so here we're going to set the scene. The scene is Harrison Barnes gets done giving us a highly thoughtful 3 or 4 minutes of media. He just backpacked the team. Kings win.
I like that term, by the way, backpack the team. I haven't heard that before.
Really?
I'm not, well, maybe I have, but
right.
I'm not, I wasn't as cognizant of it now that
he backpacked that team. He like, hey, let's go. Throw him up on the shoulders and let's go.
I like it.
I think he went back in at the 7-minute mark too. And so he scored 15 points in the final 7 minutes. So look, Harrison Barnes gets up from the table and is leaving the media room. We're almost done with him. And then he goes, "Hey, I got something for you guys, for you media guys.
Hey, media.
I said, hey, media.
Yeah. We all turn. We're like, what in the world?
Because of all people, like Harrison isn't. There's several guys that will have chatter and like to, engage a little bit.
Tyrese Halliburton, Brendan Nunez.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm even a guy that'll shout up there every now and then just to, cameras are off and I'll have a fun moment. I would do that a lot more in the locker room. And so here we are distanced apart, still using Zoom, but we're in the building and we're in the room. And, you don't have as many of these moments for Harrison to go out of his way to pose this question.
Yeah. And we didn't,
it was fun.
So Sean said something. We're actually in the room with Harrison. We're not on Zoom. There is Zoom there. And Christos Saltos from Greece, who is literally staying up all night long just to cover the Sacramento Kings. It's 4:00 in the morning, and Christos asks questions almost every time. And even he asked Harrison a question, and his accent is thick. And Harrison looked at him and I had to decipher. I mean, we've been in the room with Christos Saltos for a long time, so we understand where he's going.
We got it down. We hope he's well.
Hello, coach.
Oh,
yes.
We don't need to.
I love Christos Saltos. I think it's amazing that we have someone from Greece. Just like when Jem, what's his name? Jem
Connolly.
Jen Connolly from Ireland comes on. Whew. That's always nuts.
Because he was on the call during St. Patrick's Day. So we hear this guy with a thick Irish accent, and I thought it was a prank.
Oh no, it's not a prank, and he's good. I mean, I like him. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
But let's get back.
I will say, by the way, it's not just them. There's still, we have tiers of media. There's some that are allowed in these areas. There's others that aren't. And Christos is one of them. But there's the Zoom is still very much a ever present.
It's a tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Harrison goes to walk out the door. He turns around and he asks us I don't even know if it's $1 million question, but it's a question that I at least is interesting. And
they had been debating it. Him and some teammates had been debating it. Yeah.
The players had been debating whether, statistically speaking, DeMarcus Cousins deserves to have his jersey retired in Sacramento. And Harrison even said that he was the only one that said yes.
Well, yeah, because we all replied, and then he's like, okay, and then he was about to walk out, and I was like, wait a minute, what did you say?
Yeah,
and he could, and for the ones that had said yes, he agreed.
Yeah, I actually had turned my camera so I could see him ask the question, and I'm like, and then a lot of the guys in the media room answered loudly. I was I was surprised. Okay, so Sean,
yeah,
the business of basketball.
I replied very quickly on that. That's to me, it's a no-brainer.
Does DeMarcus Cousins deserve to have his jersey hanging from the Raptors of Gold One Center?
100%. Absolutely. 100%.
You are loony.
What? Are you kidding me? Why?
You have lost your mind.
No. Let me tell you why. And I don't even need to spout off statistics. I don't at all. Like it or not, DeMarcus Cousins in the Sacramento era is one of three faces of your franchise. It's Mitch Richmond, it's Chris Webber, it's DeMarcus Cousins. That's it. That's your franchise in Sacramento. And for that simple fact alone, he deserves to be up on your rafter hanging from there. It's 100%.
Statistically speaking, the Kings in their best season with DeMarcus Cousins on the team won 32
Doesn't
games.
matter.
Maybe 33.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And here's why. Here's why it doesn't matter. Mitch Richmond only made the playoffs once in his time with Sacramento. He's a Hall of Famer. All his All-Stars were during Sacramento. Okay. Same thing with DeMarcus Cousins. Look at the numbers alone. The numbers alone will speak for themselves. And in fact, you could argue, statistically speaking, that Vlade Divac probably doesn't deserve to have his jersey hanging from the rafters.
Okay,
so he obviously means more to in a bigger sense. Okay.
In my opinion, if someone is going to have their jersey hanging from the rafters, they need to be a Hall of Fame player. That is where
that's where you say. I don't.
I agree. I say that, but that is basically my point of view. If you're gonna have your name in the rafters, you got to be a Hall of Famer. Or
Vlade
you've got
Divac
to
is
be
not a Hall of Famer.
like
he is a Hall of Famer, but he would never have been. He would have never gone in under the pretenses if not for the international committee.
I agree.
So remember,
and I'll also tell you that the Peja Stojakovic will get into the Hall of Fame as a European player, but that
he'll get through. He'll get through. Vlade will get through the committee. I think it's very possible that Peja could get through the regular voting of the Hall of Fame. Possibly.
I never thought. Okay, so when Peja retired, I've said this a lot lately, but it's very specific because Buddy Hield. When Peja retired, he was number 3 in the NBA all time in made 3-pointers. And then he's number 23 now, but that tells you how good he was. Like he did what he did in an era where a guy like Buddy Hield doesn't get to, I mean, he shoots 1,000 3-pointers or 840 3-pointers, whatever it is. I mean, that's just crazy. If Peja was in this era, just like if Larry Bird was in this era, they would be nuts. They would score so many points.
Yeah, but that's not the discussion. You know what I mean? Like there's Hall of Fame, and then there's jersey retirement. And to me, if you are a face of the franchise during this time, and again, not just from a payment standpoint or being the best player on your team during that, look at what you've done and how you've impacted the franchise from a numbers standpoint. You are 100% deserving of being in the rafters. And if he's not, it's going to be because of other issues.
Well, the other issues are always going to come into part of it. And look, I like DeMarcus, and I
no, and that like, has nothing to do with it.
I
like
think
that,
watching him on a nightly basis was a joy. The things that he did on a basketball court, like he was a mixture of Hakeem Olajuwon and Chris Webber. Like his ability to do some of the things that we watched on a nightly basis, stunning. I once asked Chris Gent, who had played with Hakeem and was an assistant on Michael Malone's staff, like, what do you think the comparison of DeMarcus Cousins and Hakeem? He laughed. He goes, Hakeem could dribble twice. Like, that's it. DeMarcus Cousins out here leading a break.
Right.
He's like, just like the skill level of what you're seeing from DeMarcus has never been seen. He's a bridge that you don't really see. But at the same time, the other stuff and the fact that they could never win, mainly because of the other stuff, that's got to play part of it. And so you can say, well, statistically speaking, his points and rebounds, he was a genius of a basketball player. But the fact that that's all the jersey in the rafter would mean. But the fact that he couldn't do anything to get you anywhere near the playoffs, and a lot of that was because of him.
But your franchise, think of it that way, James. Your franchise hasn't sniffed the playoffs in the majority of the seasons in Sacramento. So the Sacramento era, he is one of 3. He is one of the 3 faces of your franchise. That's just reality. You're saying that Reggie
Theus wasn't the face of the franchise?
No, I'm not. I am not saying that. It is Mitch Richmond, Chris Webber, DeMarcus Cousins. And that is it. Those are the 3. And if you want to open it up to a 5-person, then fine. You have Vlade, you have Peja. To me, look, you've heard me before. Vlade is up there for different reasons than basketball numbers. Okay. We understand that. And it's the same reason that maybe DeMarcus Cousins won't get up there.
Yep.
I've always said, and this is to me, this is a more of a debate in the one I'm about to bring up. DeMarcus Cousins is a no-brainer in my estimation. And I know it won't be that way because there's going to be a lot of people that take it beyond basketball. And they're entitled to their opinion. I think they're on drugs. I really do. I think they're on glue. Swear to God. The one that I think I would even make an argument for, I think Wayman Tisdale should have his jersey retired in Sacramento. I really do. I think what Wayman Tisdale meant to this franchise and the numbers he put up, unbelievable. Yeah. So you could argue that Wayman Tisdale had more of a numbers impact for this team than even Vlade Divac had. I think that's more of a debate than the DeMarcus Cousins thing, because DeMarcus Cousins is in your top 2 in so many categories and again, is one of your 3 best players in franchise history in Sacramento era. So again, you're like what you said, and I respect it. You want to see Hall of Famers with jersey retirement. I get it, but you don't have that now. And you haven't had that for any of those 3 prior to them being retired, if that makes sense. If I said that right, right? So clearly the Kings don't think that way. I think you will see DeMarcus Cousins jersey hanging up there. It doesn't need to be now, obviously, because the guy's still playing. He's still within 5-10 years from now. Sure. But DeMarcus got, like, to me, it's not even I can't even believe that. And here's the other way. This is how you know I'm right, James.
Uh-oh.
Ready? For all you idiots out there who think that DeMarcus Cousins shouldn't have his jersey retired, just think of it this way. You would be disagreeing with Harrison Barnes, and that ain't smart.
Oh, come on. But Harrison Barnes against his entire team. Look,
Harrison Barnes is going to be a politician one day. He should. He won't, but he should. And I know I'm immediately wrong if I'm disagreeing with Harrison Barnes about anything. So that's why. If you think
the appeal to authority there, Sean, the appeal, that's one of the great fallacies, the appeal to authority. Harrison
Barnes agrees with me,
and
therefore
you're
wrong.
That Tyreek Evans, Jimmer Fredette, Ben McLemore, Nick Stauskas, Thomas Robinson, like, I know all of those sound like horrible draft picks, and most of them, like, at the end ended up being that way.
Yeah.
But I don't think that any of them needed to be horrible draft picks. And I think that, like, he played a role in that. And again, I do like DeMarcus. I hope that he gets to, hope that he battles this with the Bucks and everything else.
You're turning it into a different conversation.
I'm also telling you that it will never happen under this ownership. It won't. It won't happen. It'll never be put up there under this ownership group. Like, our phones are going nuts.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. A lot of it's just because of my work. So, and I kind of, I'm trying to have it.
I got the same thing.
Oh, you got the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
They're all of the new, like, the protocols. The league is putting in new protocols as we're recording this podcast. Yeah. I think this is a great discussion. I'll just tell you, like,
so I think that's
never be re-signed ever. It's not even going to be on the table as part of a discussion. And on top of that, like, I know some things about, like, just the way that this franchise handled, like, when we got access to play old games during the pandemic. There was there you go. Actually, look, right here, like, we can turn, like,
for the YouTube crowd,
Paul Westfall, but
see, the two of them would hate the fact that they're so close to each other on that.
I fully agree. This is in my bar. Like, I don't usually show sections of my bar unless we're doing the.
I actually disagree with that too. I actually think, at the end of the day, even if ownership remains the same, I actually think that they'll look beyond that. I really do.
Hey, man, I think as of right now, there are 2 people that I want to see with their names. Well, actually, I'll bump that up. There's at least 3 that I want to see with their names in the rafters. And I think
before DeMarcus.
Well, yeah, I'm going to say, like, I want to void out the whole 15 years of non-playoffs. And I don't think anyone from that era gets their name in the rafters at all. Yeah, you just weren't any good. Like, as a team, you never figured out how to get over the hump. It didn't matter what players you had.
But it's an individual award to have your name up there.
I agree.
And you were an all-star player. And again, statistically speaking, go ahead. I don't want to take away from that, though. Go ahead.
My 3 people, I want to see Rick Adelman with his name in the rafters.
Okay, I agree with you there. That's not a number.
I'm saying it's shameful 100%. That it's not up there.
100%.
I'm going to say that Jeff Petry needs his name in the rafters, and the fact that it's not is a travesty.
Okay.
He is the architect of not just the golden age, but he was part of the group that put together the team that made it in 95, 96, right? I'm almost positive the first time with Richmond. He's the one that traded Mitch Richmond for Chris Webber.
I think you're right. I haven't thought about that in a long time, but I think you're right.
I'm almost positive he was the architect of that team. He's the guy who drafted Brian Grant and Michael Smith. And then lastly, Tisha Pinachero, like, put her name in the rafters.
Yeah.
She's a Hall of Famer. And the fact she's not in the Hall of Fame is just an embarrassment. The fact that it took Yolanda Griffith, longer than like she was a first ballot Hall of Famer. The fact that she wasn't is a joke. That's a joke. That is one of the greatest female basketball players of all time.
Ever.
And the fact that it took her, I mean, she led a Sacramento franchise to a championship. I mean, that in itself, the second she retired, they should have just handed her like the Hall of Fame jacket.
Yeah. I mean, just as we were talking about, Mitch, Chris, and DeMarcus as being the three-headed monster for the Monarchs was easily Ruthie Bolton, who has her number up there, Yolanda Griffith, and Tisha Penichero. So hopefully that'll come to fruition. I think there's a way to honor both Rick and Jeff Petry different than a jersey or a name in the rafters, but I will give you another one. And I've been saying this for a long time, kind of privately to a lot of people, but might as well just bring it out here. I'm with you on all those, with you on all of them. But they need to retire the microphone of Gary Gerald and or turn the press room into the Gary Gerald press room.
I have said that. I actually went to them multiple times.
You need to do it while the person can be enjoyed while they're here.
And while he can enjoy it himself, like
you don't need, and I think people know where I'm going. I'm not trying to be morbid, but you want to celebrate these people while they're here.
Yeah. And Jerry left, and then they renamed the entryway into the media section as a Jerry Reynolds. And to me, that's great. Like
it is great.
It's cool. We walk through it every time we think of Jerry.
Yeah, it is great. And you know what? They could have done that while he was still at the job.
I totally agree.
You don't need to do it when he can just come in one night and see it and celebrate. Okay, I've been here. Great. Like, I'm never coming to this building again in the sense of an employment standpoint. Like, again, like G-Man should be able to sit in that dining room, in that media room, not the dining room, but the whole media room as it is. And the
whole media room.
Like I will say this, for as great as Golden One Center is, and again, I think I'll have a better idea of how it trumps Chase Center after Monday, my birthday, December 20th.
There it is.
Fox, right? I will have a better idea of this because I'm actually going to go as a spectator that night. But I can tell you 100%, even from things I've seen being there beforehand. I have not been there for a basketball game yet in person. I have not been there for a concert yet in person. But the one thing that I already know is Chase Center has 1,000 times % more character throughout their building from a decorative standpoint than Golden One Center does. Golden One Center has some pretty cool moments,
architectural,
even artistry, even things that are, again, my favorite thing is the collection is the mural as you go up the escalator going up to the upper deck, where there is a mural of a Kings logo, and it's designed by way of players' shoes, old, shoes that are all cut up that have been worn on the court. And for me as a sneakerhead, like that is exceptional. It's a beautiful piece. There's a great mural that's there. You see what the stuff on the concourse that they have for Tower Records and all these old businesses and sponsors that used to be a part of the Sacramento community. That's amazing. Shakey's Pizza. That's amazing. And then you see the KJ and the city council stuff that's up there. That's great because they're the ones that voted for this arena to happen and the fruition, but it's rather, it comes off a little bit stale.
A lot of white walls. You
feel like you're in a facility.
If you go up to the suite level and walk around, they have incredible photographs. Incredible all the way around.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Like do the same thing you can do even in the event level of the arena. And I think they've done great strides with some of obviously they've got some clubs down there and they've got some lounges. They famously in the main entrance for some of the concert acts that would come through, players for all the teams that come through, they would change out a mural. They'd make one for Chance the Rapper. They had done one for, I think, the Eagles their first time through. I think Travis Scott had one. So like you could do this, like they've done that and it's nice, but like add some more color or add some more, like you can add some more things that accurately detail the history of this team in Sacramento, or crazy events that have, or excuse me, every time an event takes place in your arena, be it a concert, like that's history. Like there should be one of the things I love about Madison Square Garden and even HB Pavilion in San Jose, like Madison Square Garden, and again, I know we're comparing it to Madison Square Garden. That's not fair. But if you go through the concourse, you'll see a date for 365 days of the year. January 2nd, 1945. January 3rd, 1995. They have an event for every single day of the year in its history in the venue. And it could be James Taylor in concert. It could be Barnum and Bailey Circus. It could be U2. It could be a presidential convention. It could be something small. It could be something big. But they have something that represents every single day of the year for 365 days throughout its history. Now, obviously, Golden One Center doesn't have that. HP Pavilion has a photograph of every single event that's taken place, almost every single event that's taken place, especially from a concert standpoint on there, and it's represented somewhere. Maybe you don't have to do something like that. But again, you look at the media room and there's like 6 photos on the wall.
Yeah, they need to do it.
One with a glaring absence at the moment, but
yeah,
it hasn't been replaced. But there's several that just celebrate your history a little bit more and decorate that place. Add some character to it. It seems a little bit it seems like a facility. It seems like a doctor's office.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I got you.
Sterile.
All right, Sean.
Yeah.
Sean, the DoorDash just got here.
Oh.
Yeah, they do DoorDash up here, just so people know. They do DoorDash to the sticks, which is,
I'm amazed that they even have internet. So
which is really impressive that they DoorDash here. Do you have any final thoughts?
DeMarcus Cousins should have his jersey retired 100%. I'm going to make you say that one day. I'm going to bring you over to the good side.
And it's not a personal thing.
Oh, I know.
It's just,
I get it.
Let's see. My final thoughts for tonight. 2 things. Number 1, don't come with your weird stuff in my timeline about vaccinations.
But everything else is fine, right?
I'm not going to deal with that. No, that's going to be the other one. Do not come with your weird anti-Doug Christie former partner on the radio garbage in my timeline. I'll block you every second of the way.
But do remind James Ham that he fired Doug Christie as his podcast.
I'm going to tell you, do not come with that weak stuff. If I see you parroting somebody in my timeline, you're just getting banished into space, because that's the most ignorant and disrespectful and wrong thing that I've seen.
Wow. You're going to have to show me some examples. I need to see this. I don't block anyone, by the way. I honestly don't block many people.
I'm embarrassed for those people. I'm embarrassed because a grown-ass man made his own decision, and that has nothing to do with anyone else but himself.
Enough said.
That's it. So good luck with that.
James got the ban hammer. I love it.
I do have the ban. I don't need it. I don't need the crazy. Like, there are a few things that bug me on Twitter, and there's a few things that you can get banned from me, but those are 2 that are becoming more and more prevalent. Like, I don't need some mystic doctor telling people in my timeline about vaccinations. Like
mystic
holy
doctor.
Like your Twitter just like the holy something or whatever. Like, come on, man. I don't need it. Like, let's not spread it disinformation. All right. So Sean, maybe there are like a handful of people that are now angry with me and don't want to follow the Kings beat anymore. I don't care if that's the case. But you should be following the Kings beat, and you should jump on and get a paid subscription, because those who are awesome enough to do paid subscriptions get an invite to the Kings Beat Happy Hour number 2 part.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to that one. Yes.
I set it up for, I think it's Thursday, January 6th. I added that to one of the things that I just put out. So that's if you are a paid subscriber, you get the invite. If you are not, you miss out on all the crazy stories, which are super fun. And James drinking a couple of whiskeys and, cutting loose, right?
Yeah, you tell some stories, man. You go down some roads I didn't expect. I was like, oh, I almost needed like a warning shot.
Wow. Yeah. No, I mean, that's what it's about. It's about giving you something different than you've never had before, as far as coverage and access to media members that have crazy stories and have been around the block a few times and then back again. So again, make sure to jump on board, and hopefully everyone can take part in our cool happy hour and we have a good time. Lastly, some positive vibes for the Sacramento Kings. This isn't fun. This is not what they wanted this week to be about. Something different. They wanted it to be about pushing forward and finding success at home and showing their home fans what they are made of. And now they're stuck in the middle of a outbreak of COVID, and it's unfortunate and it's crappy, and wish all of them well. We're in the holidays. Some of these guys may even get quarantined and not be able to visit their families, or not have families visit them. So this isn't fun stuff. So some well wishes there. So any other final thoughts, Sean, because we just keep dragging this out?
Nope. Just be safe. And yeah, I'll be a year older when we do this again on Tuesday.
Sean is so dramatic about his birthday. He's so dramatic about his birthday.
Because I don't like being in the 40s. I really don't. Like, it's I was saying, so I'm turning 41. I've been doing this a long time. And I told someone the other day, I was like, I don't consider myself in my 40s until I turn 41. You're 40. When you're 40, you're not in your 40s. I know that probably doesn't make sense to many people, but that's just the way I think about it.
It makes no sense, but that's
now
okay.
I'm in my effing 40s, and I don't know.
Okay, lastly, before I go, we're doing this on YouTube. We've added this, so make sure, I forgot about that. Make sure to jump on board.
It's like that bear that waves, right?
Yeah. This is Buddy the Elf.
There you go.
Jump on board the YouTube channel. So if you dig the podcast, then you can now watch us and see us doing this craziness that we do from wherever. Sean is, we got Sean a new mic.
Look at this. Can you all hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the YouTube channel. So just jump on and subscribe, and that way you get that stuff. It's going to be part of the package that gets sent out to all of the listeners of the podcast, but it should be cool. And we're going to make some upgrades. It's not always going to look like this. I've got a lot of work to do though, and just so little time to do it. And I'm too focused on buying golf clubs on eBay while Harrison Barnes is answering questions. And so a little insight. So again, thanks for tuning into the Kings Beat podcast. Subscribe, do all the things that you do to promote the Kings Beat. And for Sean Cunningham, I am James Ham. We'll see you next week.